Went to the CVS to get some chapstick because we smooching later. Thank you, Michael. Next, I have to stick to the script. Next up, we have our featured speaker, the fabulous Senator Khanh Pham. Fun fact, one of Senator Khan's previous roles was in one of our member organizations, APANO. We are delighted to have her with us tonight. Please welcome to the stage, beautiful Senator Khanh Pham.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here today at the CCC Summer Soirée because in so many ways, I would not be standing here before you as the Oregon State Senator for District 23 if it wasn't for the work of the Coalition of Communities of Color. When I think about my path, so much of it lies in the groundwork of the people who came before, who built the CCC, who had the vision to bring together different communities who previously weren't working as closely together and united us under this umbrella to be able to be a powerful force for racial justice. And then later, the next generation of organizers who fought to expand beyond just human services and education, but recognized that communities of color have a voice in environmental and climate justice. We have an analysis, and we have a vision that's missing in the environmental movement. And that is what allowed me to get hired at APANO and people who fundraised to make sure that we could actually collaborate on environmental justice work together, which eventually led to us being able to build the coalition that eventually won the Portland Clean Energy Fund. So, you know, when I stand here today, I am so aware that I stand, and so many of us stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us and who fought so much for us, and I think the Coalition of Communities of Color, to me, represents the legacy of so much of that work. You know, in 2018, it was the work of the CCC co-founders and the folks who built the environmental justice program that allowed us to be able to win in 2018 the Portland Clean Energy Fund initiative. And it is now generating hundreds of millions of dollars to reduce climate pollution while providing jobs, economic savings, cooling heat pumps, and more for the communities who are hit hardest by extreme heat waves, wildfire smoke, and other climate disasters. But even as we celebrate these incredible wins, I want to acknowledge that these are really hard times. Right now, immigrants are being snatched off the streets in unmarked vans and being sent to prisons in third countries, whether it's El Salvador and South Sudan, with no due process. Over 8 million people may be kicked off their health care through cuts to Medicaid health services that are literally keeping some of them alive. Military troops are being deployed on the streets of Los Angeles, not to fight foreign enemies, but to fight American civilians on American soil. Meanwhile, the largest wealth transfer in history, in US history, is taking place, harming the most vulnerable families in the US by depriving them of healthcare, education, nutrition, just to enrich a tiny class of already super rich billionaires. That's right. It is so easy right now to feel hopeless in these times. I have to admit, there are days when I wake up and I just feel completely despondent and I don't want to get out of bed. But that is what authoritarians want us to feel. They want our overwhelm and our fear to make us freeze and self-protect and to isolate ourselves even further. It is really normal and understandable to feel afraid in this moment. But the danger is when we get stuck in that fear and hopelessness, when we aren't given ways to move through that fear and out of it. So how do we move out of that fear? I believe firmly that building community is what gets us through these times. It's being in relationship with other people who share our vision and our values. That is what helps us to move out of fear and into collective action. And that taking action together is what builds the power that we need to actually change policy and protect and defend our communities. So when we look at our past, we can see how our communities in Oregon have done this organizing work and how we benefit from it today. Because of the visionary work of organizers and activists in the 1980s, who fought to pass the first sanctuary state policy in the country. That's right, that is the work of Oregon organizers. Ensuring that our local law enforcement resources are focused on protecting communities here and not diverting resources to federal ICE. That work has made Oregon safer and has made our communities safer. We're continuing to strengthen and protect that work today. There are so many programs and investments, from universal legal representation for immigrants, to expanding healthcare access, to ensuring student success for BIPOC students. There are so many people here in this room have fought for and won. And as I look around here tonight, I can feel the power of multiple generations of organizers who have done this work for decades, as well as newer people, younger people who have really represent the growth of these organizations. And I also know that in this moment, we have to grow a movement even bigger than just the organizations in this room. We have to build our base in our movements, and we just can't rely on the same organizations that we have in the past to be able to grow the power that we need to truly protect and defend our communities. So let me be clear, I have benefited and learned so much from being a paid staff organizer. But I also spent over a decade as an unpaid activist and organizer, and I remember wanting to be connected to these movements, but I couldn't figure out the best way or how to contribute or plug in a way that fit in with my life and work schedule. And right now we're living in a moment in which so many people are awakening to this moment of rising militarism, fascism, white supremacy, and authoritarianism. They want to take action, but they don't quite know how to get involved. An old organizer mentor of mine used to tell me, we are looking for the people who are looking for us. And right now, there are thousands of people in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our communities, who are waiting to be asked to step up and do something brave. They are seeing what is happening on the news and on their phones, and they have learned about the civil rights movement, the anti-colonial movement, the anti-apartheid movement, and they want to be called to take action and to be part of a movement that aligns with their deepest values. Each of us here are already in organizations and are positioned to do the work to make these connections and to expand our base, to make sure that everyone who's feeling fear and isolation right now has an invitation to connect and to join our movement. I would not be here in the Oregon legislature if I had not come up through base building in organizations that invested time and energy in me, that taught me how to door knock, how to have one-on-ones, organizations that gave me political education and organizing workshops so I could learn about the history of how people organized in the 60s and the 70s and the 90s and how to update and modernize those tactics for the 21st century. The work of the Coalition of Communities of Color is so critical to building the infrastructure that we need to build solidarity and power across race, across class, gender, and nationalities, and it is not something to be taken for granted. Not every region has a coalition of communities of color. When I was living in the Bay Area of California, which has a very rich history of organizing in its own right, there wasn't a group like CCC to bring people together. And today, at a time when racial justice and even the ideas of diversity, equity, and inclusion are under attack, we need to be supporting organizations like the CCC now more than ever. All right, so thank you all so much for being here today, and please join me in continuing to support the work of the CCC and to support the work of base building and movement building that is so vital and necessary in this moment. Thank you.